Good day. My name is Mark Malore. I'm principal here at the Malore Law Firm. I want to take a brief moment today to answer some questions for you. Most of my clients in Ontario, California have for me with respect to the distinctions or the differences between a Chapter 7 bankruptcy and a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. There are some major ones, there are some minor ones, but the most significant ones I want to take a moment here and tell you about those. Let's first talk about Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Chapter 7 is a bankruptcy that discharges all your debt completely, meaning after you file and get a discharge from the bankruptcy court, all your debt has been extinguished and is gone. Whereas in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, you're looking at a repayment plan of some portion of that debt. Now you can either have 100 cents on the dollar repayment or you could have 10 cents on the dollar repayment. That's going to depend on what your gross monthly income is and what the amount of debt you're carrying is in comparison. And that's something that the trustee will figure out based on some calculations and parameters that are under the code for them to follow. But nonetheless, there's going to be some portion of that debt you're going to be repaying over time. Now, what is another distinction between Chapter 7 and Chapter 13? One major distinction, other than the repayment of the debt, is that a Chapter 7 is typically completed in about 90 to 120 days, as long as your paperwork is filed correctly. Whereas a Chapter 13 takes 3 to 5 years to complete. The time period, whether that's 3, 4, or 5 years, will depend on the trustee and what type of repayment plan they put you into. But nonetheless, the big distinction between them is that one takes 3 to 4 months, the other will take 3 to 5 years. And that's important when you're looking at filing bankruptcy, depending on where you land. Now you might ask, well, what determines whether we file a Chapter 7 or Chapter 13? And that's another distinction, because those are economically based, or in other words, depend on how much you're bringing in terms of income. If you bring in less than the California median income, then you're going to be able to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy and discharge all your debt. Whereas if you're over that limit, even with some exclusions and deductions, you're going to be forced into filing a Chapter 13 and repaying a portion of that debt, whether it's 10 cents on the dollar or 100 cents on the dollar. That is another distinction between the two. I think another thing that's important that I'd like to raise here before you today is that one major distinction that people come to me all the time when they're talking about a strategic default on their home, either with loan modification, short sale, foreclosure, deed in lieu of foreclosure, they're looking at the equity balance in their home. And here in the Inland Empire, especially in Ontario, people are upside down on their homes. We've lost 50% of value in the Inland Empire, statistically speaking, on average. And so for homes in Ontario, you've got a situation where you've got a $500,000 mortgage on a home that's worth $250,000. If you're one of the many homeowners that took out an 80-20 loan or took out a second, or with the growth of equity since 2003, took out a second over time to take some equity out of your home, you're encumbered with both the first and a second. There's a process in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy called lien stripping. And so that's the last distinction, a difference between the two that I want to talk to you about today, is that in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, you can strip the second from the home, provided you meet the criteria necessary to do so, whereas Chapter 7 doesn't allow for lien stripping to occur. So if one of your strategic default options is to strip the second from the home, you're going to have to consider what the repayment portion of your debt is going to be over 3 to 5 years in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy versus discharging all the debt and leaving the second on your home in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Those are some of the major distinctions. If you have any further questions or you want some facts to apply to your particular situation, feel free to call myself or my partner Alan Sanders, and we'd be happy to set up an appointment and answer your questions for you. Thank you for your attention.